Bread and Butter is back at it, this time with the release of the Fat Boy, fully packed with bilateral love handles, cosmetic appeal, and an integrated Kevlar weave paddle face. A lot like their recently released Shogun, they've once again broke the mold with a truly unique design and created a paddle that performs very well at a very reasonable price. With this channel's discount code PBMED, bringing the final price of a Fat Boy down to $160. A price I believe will keep this paddle selling fast, even if it were to have only played average, just based off of looks and marketing alone, but this paddle also plays very well. It's also worth noting that Bread and Butter has chosen to continue forward their rare love it or return it 30-day return policy alongside companies like 𝐏𝐁𝐓 and 𝐁𝐿, allowing you to fully use the paddle for up to 30 days and return it for a full refund if you don't want to keep it. But just looking at the popularity of their previous paddles and knowing what I know now about how this paddle plays, I'll go ahead and say that I don't think it'll be used often. Let's first talk about the stats and specs of this paddle and then talk about its playability. Despite its name, the Fat Boy isn't actually that wide, coming in at 16 by 8 inches, technically falling into the standard paddle shape alongside other paddles like the Honolulu J3K or the Engage Pursuit Pro EX. It has a handle that's a little shorter and more comparable to the handle of the Gruvin Laser 16S, and a similar handle length with a small amount more room due to the shape of the lower paddle face than the Spartus Apollo, but less room than the longer handles of the J3K or the Mach 2 Forza. With the way I hold my handles, I still have plenty of room for a two-handed grip, but if you have larger hands or if you like your hands fully on the handle, you may need to overlap your hands a little bit for things like two-handed grips. The Fat Boy is 16 millimeters thick, and though you may not know it by looking at it, it's made of a Kevlar carbon fiber weave. If you look closely at the face, you can see its little alternating squares typically seen on faces incorporating a Kevlar carbon fiber weave, but it's subtle from farther away. Without lead tape, the swing weight of my Fat Boy was 109 and the twist weight was 7.07, giving it a comparable swing weight to paddles like the Spartus Apollo or the 16mm Mach 2 Forza, and a twist weight that joins the elite 7+ range with other paddles like the Spartus Apollo and Mach 2 Forza, as well as the Honolulu J2K. And I'll say that even though the swing weight was pretty low, I've played with it on the same day as several other comparable paddles, and though it's not heavy by any means, it's not as ultra maneuverable as the swing weight may suggest, and I would say it feels comparable in weight perception to a paddle like the Honolulu J3K, and a touch heavier than the Mach 2 Forza or even the new 16mm Mage Pro Gen 2. But that twist weight above 7, however, I did feel was pretty indicative and reflective of the stability and sweet spot size of the paddle. And the drive speed was also good for a standard shaped paddle, and I felt it produced higher velocity than paddles like the Gruvin Laser 16S, and was comparable to the Spartus Apollo, probably a touch less though than the Honolulu J3K. I did a side-by-side pop comparison with the Fat Boy and several other paddles I've been testing, where I lined all the paddles up along the fence and hit them softly one after another, side by side the paddle right next to it on the same day, with the same ball type, the same temperature, and all the lead tape removed, and rearranged them in real time according to their pop level, and here was the order they were ranked. In terms of pop, the Fat Boy fell right in that middle tier of the paddles I tested, alongside paddles like the Apollo and the Honolulu J3K. One aspect of how the Fat Boy played that I thought was very pleasant was the feel of the paddle face itself. It definitely has a very plush feel, much more plush than any other paddle that Bread and Butter has made so far, similar to the plush feel of the KEVLAR 𝐏𝐁𝐿 Control or the 6.0 Ruby after it's broken in. If I were to put the Fat Boy in a playstyle category, I would say the Fat Boy plays more in the control category with its pleasantly soft feel and average level of pop, and the sweet spot was pretty awesome. It was super forgiving and stable on off-center shots, and right out of the gate it was one of the paddles I've played the most consistently with, but because it's not super light like the Mach 2 Forza or Laser 16S, I was still able to generate pretty good velocity on drives from the baseline. Overall, I actually really like this paddle, and I'm a sucker for the design they've got going here with the donuts and the blue accents and edgeguard. I think they really hit a home run with the design here. And aside from looks, I think this would be a really good paddle for people who want a more plush feeling paddle with a good sweet spot and stability, and some pretty decent power on bigger swings with a decent but not overwhelming amount of pop. But this is probably not going to be a good paddle for people who want a really high level of pop like the Gen 3 foam paddles or the Engage Pursuit Pros, or if you need something ultra maneuverable like we see in some 14mm or lighter wide-body paddles. That's my take on the new bread and butter Fat Boy. I hope the review was helpful. Let me know what you think if you end up playing with this paddle or if you've tried it already. And if you liked the review, hit that subscribe button and I'll catch you here for the next one.